Hi guys, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about the books I read between December 15th and December 21st. First up, I read The Switch by Beth OLeary, and I gave this book 5 stars. In this book, we follow Lena, who is put on a 2-month sabbatical from work, and her grandmother, Eileen, who is newly single and is looking for love, but is finding very few prospects in the little village where she lives. When Lena finds out that her grandmother is looking for love, she proposes that she goes and stays at her grandmother's house in rural Yorkshire, while her grandmother goes and stays in her flat in London, as there will be lots more prospects for love for her grandmother in London. And maybe the time away from London will help Lena deal with the fact that she's on a sabbatical from work. I thought this was such a cute book. I loved getting to see Lena try and step into her grandmother's life and realizing that it was not as easy as it looked. And I liked getting to see how Eileen dealt with the roommates Lena has and the other people in Lena's building. And I really enjoy getting to see Eileen's journey to find somebody to fall in love with, especially considering she was using online dating for the first time. And it was just so interesting to see how them switching houses for a couple of months impacted their lives. And I really like the way Beth OLeary writes, and this is the second book by her that I have given 5 stars. From now on, she is going to be an auto-read author for me. I don't even need to know what the book is about. I'm just going to read it because she's written it. And I enjoyed this one even more than I enjoyed The Flat Share, and I was not expecting that. So yeah, I really loved this book, and it is one of my favorite books I've read this year. Next, I read the My Teacher is an Alien series, and I'm going to talk about them together. So first up, I read My Teacher is an Alien, and I gave this book 3.75 stars. Next was My Teacher Fried My Brains, and I gave this book 4.25 stars. The third book in the series is My Teacher Glows in the Dark, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. And the final book is My Teacher Flunked the Planet, and I gave this book 4 stars. So in this series, we follow 3 kids. Susan, whose perspective we read in book 1. Duncan, whose perspective we read in book 2. And Peter, whose perspective we read in books 3 and 4. In book 1, Susan realizes one day that her teacher is an alien and has to figure out what to do with that information. The first person she thinks to tell is Peter, because she thinks he might actually believe her. She then has to figure out what she and Peter are going to do with the information that they have. I read these books as a kid, and it was so nice getting to slip back into these books and get to experience things with these characters in this world again. And I just love getting to see some of my favorite characters. And it's been long enough that I didn't really remember what happened in these books. Like, I knew some of the things that happened, but I had forgotten enough details that it was almost like rereading them for the first time all over again. And I just really love this series and these characters in these books. And this is definitely one of my all-time favorite series. Next, I read The Deal of a Lifetime by Frederick Bachman, and I gave this book 3 stars. This book is about a man who is talking to his son about his life. I don't want to say much more because it's like 65 pages, and some of these pages are illustrations, so there's not really much I can say without spoiling the book. I thought this book was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It left me with a lot of questions and things that just didn't make sense to me, and I can't really say what they are, because again, if I say anything really specific about this book, I would be spoiling it because it's so short. There were things about this book that really, really didn't work for me, and I just couldn't get on board with them. And once I had thought of those things, there was no way I could unthink those things. And again, I'm sure this doesn't make any sense if you haven't read the book, but if you like Frederick Bachman, it's worth picking up and trying out, even if you're just curious to see what those things are that might have bothered me. Because like I said, it's only like 65 pages. It's really short. It's a really quick read. And I mean, again, the writing is great because Frederick Bachman is a fantastic writer, but this book was just not my favorite of his. Next up, I read Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, and I gave this book 4 stars. In this book, we follow Luke, whose parents are rock stars, though they haven't been super famous in a long time. His father walked out of his life at the age of 3. His father is currently working on a comeback album, and this has dragged Luke back into the spotlight a bit. And unfortunately, this causes him issues at work, as he works for a charity and is the person in charge of trying to get people to donate. And the people who donate are starting to get turned off by some of Luke's antics. So he and his friends come up with this idea that he should get a fake boyfriend to help clean up his image. This is where Oliver comes in. Oliver is a squeaky clean barrister. Luke feels like he and Oliver have absolutely nothing in common, so fake dating will be quite easy. And like I said, Luke is the perfect guy to rehab his image. Oliver also needs a date for a big event, so he agrees to do this fake dating thing. I thought this book was quite cute. I definitely chuckled several times while I was reading it. I really liked getting to see Luke and Oliver's relationship dynamic and how a friendship kind of bloomed out of this like fake dating thing, and how they really leaned on each other through the stuff that they were going through, and how their relationship developed throughout this book. I love me a fake dating trope. I think that can be really, really fun if done well, and I thought it was done pretty well in this book. I like the idea that Luke has been dragged back in the spotlight despite the fact that he has absolutely no relationship with his father, and that has affected his work life, and how frustrating that is for him to have to deal with this when his father hasn't been around, and to see his anger towards his father shown in this book. And I like that there was some drama to it, that it wasn't just this squeaky clean, cutesy, fluffy romance, that there was some issues that both of them had that they kind of had to work through, and getting to know each other actually helped both of them work through some of that. I really enjoyed this book, and I'm really glad that I read it. Also, the audio narration is fantastic, so if you want to listen to this on audiobook, you should definitely give it a try. Next up, I read The Naughty List by Michael Fry and Bradley Jackson, and I gave this book 3 stars. This follows a girl named Bobby who is just so over Christmas, to the point where she's like ignoring it. Unfortunately, her little brother absolutely adores Christmas and everything about it. One day, though, she finds out that her little brother is on the naughty list, and he's not even on it for something he did, he's on it for something she did. So she then knows she must do whatever she has to clear her little brother's name and prove that he does not belong on the naughty list. I thought this book was alright. There were some moments that made me chuckle, but I wasn't exactly a huge fan of how it was written, as some of it is written in like almost like a comic book style, and I like graphic novels, but it could be a bit confusing at times where it was going, because some of it was actually played out in the scenes as opposed to in the dialogue, and I wasn't a fan of how that was formatted. I will say, though, if you have a middle grader at home and you're looking for a cute Christmas read for them, then I would definitely suggest you pick this up. It just wasn't my favorite book that I've read this month. Next up, I read Saving Lucas Briggs by Marissa de los Santos, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. In this book, we follow Margaret, whose father is sentenced to death for something that he didn't do. Shortly after the trial, she is talking to her friend Charlie's grandpa Josh, and finds out that he knew the judge who sentenced her father when they were younger. He explains that there are events in the judge's past that have made him the way that he is, and hints that it is possible to change those things and help her father in the process. Margaret realizes that somehow Grandpa Josh knows about her secret. She can travel through time. She ends up deciding to go back in time and give it a shot. She hopes that with the help of Charlie and Grandpa Josh, she might be able to not only save her father, but also save Lucas Biggs, the judge who sentenced her father to death. I enjoyed this book. I like the premise of this book, that Margaret has the ability to travel in time and that there are consequences to her traveling in time. It is told in alternate points of view. So one chapter is from Margaret's point of view, and then the next chapter is from Grandpa Josh's point of view. And it is interesting getting to see Grandpa Josh's point of view because that is from when he was a kid, and we get to see the events leading up to the moment that kind of really affected Lucas Biggs' life and changed him into the person that he is today that sentenced Margaret's father to death. I also really liked seeing some of the parallels between Margaret's interactions with Josh when she's in the past and Margaret's interactions with Charlie in the present. I thought this was quite the interesting little book and found it to be an enjoyable read. And lastly, I read Mutson, Mistletoe by Natalie Cox, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. In this book, we follow Charlie, whose upstairs neighbor's oven explodes, and this requires her to vacate her flat until it can be repaired. She ends up staying with her cousin, who owns a doggy daycare center. This isn't ideal for Charlie, as she's not the hugest fan of dogs. When she finds out that her cousin has a long-distance love and wants to go see her, she assures her cousin she can hold down the fort with the dogs, even though she probably is in over her head. The local vet, Cal, doesn't seem to like her very much, and unfortunately she has several run-ins with him as she is working to take care of the doggy daycare center in her cousin's absence. Charlie must find some way to hold her own while being in over her head. I really, really love this book. It was the perfect Christmas fluffy read that I was looking for. It is literally a Hallmark or Lifetime Christmas movie in a book. So if that is your kind of thing, you should definitely pick this up. I really like Charlie and getting to see her deal with the dogs and all of the obstacles that were kind of thrown in her way with that, and her inability to say no to people or admit when she was in over her head. And I really like seeing her relationship with Cal develop, and the dogs were so cute. I like how they each kind of had their own personality and their own little quirks. And seriously, if you like Christmassy, fluffy romances, like I said, Hallmark movie type romances, then you should definitely check this book out. So these are some of the books I have read recently. Have you read any of these books? Let me know in the comment section below. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a dog emoji in the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!